'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the land this special day had been cancelled by Advent's hand. The children now slept after they sobbed and wept, for when Advent found St. Nicholas they chose to detain. Santa's crime? Refusing a computer chip into his brain. He was labelled a rebel, a menace, an agent of vice, and so on Christmas morning the children would receive nothing nice. All they would know is living in fright from those pesky mutons always wanting to fight. But this terrible news caught the drifter's ear. He and his friends knew they had nothing to fear. Advent had already labelled them renegades. So Drifter went and gathered his grenades. He loudly exclaimed, "They cannot do this to St. Nick, no, no, for old Santa Claus, he is our bro. We'll find Nicholas and bust him out, and we'll show Advent what the spirit of giving is all about." Hey everybody, welcome to another XCOM 2 War of the Chosen challenge run. Today we're spreading the Christmas spirit by delivering some very explosive gifts to Advent. It's what I like to call the 100 Grenades challenge. I've modified the game so each grenade that we equip on a soldier has 100 charges or uses, but the catch is that we're not allowed to use any other weapons or utility items. It's grenades only. And I've had a grenades only run suggested to me quite a few times by viewers, but the simple fact is that such a run would be impossible. Even if you made it through the whole game, which would be no easy task, you simply would not have enough grenades to beat the final mission. There's just too many enemies, and you'd run out of bombs before they all went down. And in that first section of the last mission, you have to defeat all the enemies in order to progress in the game. And even ignoring the final mission, just getting through Gatecrasher alone would require extremely good RNG, and it would be close to impossible. We just wouldn't have enough of our exploding toys. So I figured if we remove that deficit by giving our soldiers more grenades than they'll ever possibly need, would it be possible to beat the game with only grenades? And if you're wondering how I achieved this result of our troops having 100 grenades each, there's a mod on the Steam Workshop that's called More Grenades by PZ. It'll give your grenades a single extra charge, but by going into the config files of that mod and simply changing a 1 to a 99, we can have a super fun and completely unbalanced time with this game. Now for the rules, they're pretty straightforward for this one, maybe. We're playing on veteran difficulty, we're playing on honest man, so we're only reloading in the events of misclicks and glitches. Only grenades are allowed in combat, no other weapons, utility items, or PCS upgrades. Now there is of course one exception, we can use the Skulljack for story progression. And the fourth rule, we have to complete the campaign no later than December 24th in-game time. And that last rule may seem a bit out of place, but hey, it's that time of year and we can't let Advent ruin Christmas, right? Now a question that came up a bit in the first stream of this run is what exactly counts as a grenade? And the answer is pretty simple. Any item that can be placed in the Grenadier's grenade-only item slot is permitted. If a utility item cannot be placed in that slot normally, then it's not allowed. So basically any type of grenade is permitted, regular, plasma, flashbang, smoke, EMP, whatever, all that good stuff. But other items like mimic beacons and even medikits are out. And heavy weapons and the Reaper's Claymore are also out. Yes, they do cause explosions, but those items cannot be placed into the grenade-only pouch. So for our purposes, they are not counted as grenades. And now let's get into the run. I decide to begin with the skirmishes for two reasons. The first is that at corporal level, they learn the total combat ability, or they can learn the total combat ability at least. And this lets them throw a grenade without ending their turn, so they can potentially throw two. And this ability, combined with their grapple hook, makes them infinitely more useful than the other hero classes in this particular run. Now the first mission, as you'd expect, is pretty easy. We just keep lobbing grenades until all the bad guys are vanquished. And I'm expecting this to be a run that is really easy in the early game, but the difficulty is going to ramp up once the tougher enemies with more HP start appearing. Now the research is going to be pretty different than most runs, and that's because magnetic weapons are actually useless to us. The only weapon we're going to be upgrading is the grenade launcher, and we only need the Muton Autopsy to get those level 2 grenades and launchers. But of course, without any Muton corpses, we can't pursue that avenue of research, so for now, we're just going to rush the story research here in the early game. And now for the second reason that I chose to start with the skirmishes. We want the construction speed bonus that scanning at Skirmisher HQ gives us. This will lessen the time before the GTS is up and running. And the GTS is going to be hugely important since we want as many grenadiers as we can get our hands on as quickly as possible. Now we are allowed to use other classes as long as we only attack with grenades, but grenadiers have two distinct advantages. One is that they can carry two different types of grenades. So for example, we could have 100 frag grenades and 100 flashbang grenades. Plus they also have the grenade launcher rather than just throwing the grenades with their hands. So their nades are going to travel further and they'll have a bigger area of effect. Grenadiers, as you'd expect, are definitely going to be the most useful class on this run. So the first guerrilla op. I take mostly the same soldiers that we had on Gatecrasher. We don't want to bring rookies because we have very little control over what class they will be promoted into. Now I do know Storm here will become a ranger when they get their promotion because that's the only class that we don't have yet. The game will make your first 4 promotions one each of the 4 base classes. So him we do have control over, and I do actually want at least one ranger in our barracks. They have got some abilities that will be useful on this run. But after that, we want every rookie to be promoted through the GTS so that we can choose their class. Now the mission itself isn't too bad. Things are a bit dicey as 2 pods are camped on top of the device we have to protect. That forces us to engage both of them at the same time. And there's 2 troopers and 2 sectoids. Now the troopers very foolishly move too close together. This means our grenadier Q can blast both of them to smithereens with a single grenade. And that leaves our other troops to eliminate one of the sectoids entirely. And so that one remaining sectoid only raises a zombie, and you know the drill, it's gonna go down very easily on the next turn. And after the mission, we get a couple of promotions, and this run is another one where I actually take blast padding since Shredder is useless to us. Also, check this out. The first engineer we acquire is German guy. Just like I told you in the last run, he lives on as an undead servant of XCOM. Let's just move on, shall we? Alright, so the third mission. Normally this one is a horde sit rep, which is what I was hoping for. My plan was to just run past all the lost, grab the VIP, and then keep running. But that's not to be here. Advent are on this mission too, and running away from guys who can shoot guns at us is a lot tougher than simply avoiding mindless lost who can only use melee attacks. And speaking of the lost, they're one of the biggest concerns I have going into this run. Every time we use a grenade, that's going to bring another lost pod closer to spawning in. And attacking with 4 grenades per turn, well, more lost will show up literally every turn. They'll spawn in faster than it's possible to eliminate them. So what do? Well, to start off, we're going to hide up in this building. We're going to blow up most of the entrances so that the lost can't get to us. And then we're going to let Advent and the lost fight it out amongst themselves. As long as the zombie bros can't actually reach us, it really doesn't matter how many of them spawn in. We'll still be safe, at least until we have to get to the evac zone, of course. So how are we going to get to the evac zone? Well, the first step is to eliminate all of Advent. We can either do this directly, or we can have the Lost take them down for us. And once Advent is disposed of, we can treat this like any other Horde mission, and we can adopt the aforementioned strategy of just keep running away. Now it does get a bit intense as our squad gets separated into two groups. Half of them are covering the VIP, and by covering I mean they're literally standing in front of the VIP so the Lost target our soldiers and not them. And the other half of the squad have moved onto the other side of the map to secure one of the extra soldiers that we can get on these missions. Now doing this slows them down a fair bit, so they do start to get swarmed by Lost. And once we use too many grenades, more Lost are just going to show up. So fighting back doesn't really seem like a great strategy here. I am concerned we're going to lose someone, but by exploiting high ground and with a little bit of luck, that thankfully doesn't happen. We do take some hits, but nothing some R&R won't cure. And while this mission was pretty tough, the Lost could prove an even bigger problem going forward. If we have a mission which requires us to eliminate all enemies, and the Lost happen to be present on that mission, it will be literally impossible for us to win. Lost will simply spawn faster than we can take them out. So I'm going to need to do everything I can to make sure the Lost World Dark event does not trigger. It could genuinely be the worst Dark event in this run, and that's pretty unusual. Normally it's one of the best ones to get. Then it's time for the first retaliation mission. The Hunter is our first chosen, and that's exactly what I wanted to see. He's normally the easiest to deal with in the early game. His strengths are Revenge and Shadow Step, and his weaknesses are Skirmishes and Brittle. I was hoping for a weakness to Explosives, but you can't have it all, we'll make do. Now as this mission kicks off, I have to say, not having to worry about aiming percentages is such a great feeling. As long as we can get into range, our attack is guaranteed to hit. No 99% misses on this run, thank you very much. Now the Hunter's AI goes a bit berserk here. For whatever reason, he refuses to use his rifle. He just keeps switching between the tranquilizer rounds in his pistol and his stun grenades. Now this is okay with me since neither of these two attacks inflict any damage in terms of our HP, but I've never seen this before. He normally always goes for his rifle first, so we end up destroying him and picking up a flawless victory. He had two buildings he could have grappled around on and absolutely rained hell down upon us if he wanted to. We would have been easily flanked, but he just didn't. He handed us a free victory instead. So thanks, Hunter, you're alright, I guess. Now unfortunately we've pushed Q too hard by sending him on too many missions, so he's picked up a negative trait. And what's the trait, I hear you ask? Well, fear of missed shots, of course. Now in any other run this would be a devastating trait to develop, it would be really annoying, but in this run it's never going to be a problem for us, so this is actually really good. Soon we have our first supply raid, and these missions are going to be super important to win. See, it was only after I started the run that I realised Elerium cores are going to be a huge issue. They're a very important resource for us to have, since most special grenades require a core to make. Even plasma and EMP grenades require a core for the initial project in the Proving Grounds, so we're going to need quite a few of them. Now normally the main way to acquire these items is to pick them up as loot from fallen enemies, but if you finish an enemy with a grenade, the loot that they might have been carrying gets destroyed. And seeing as we're going to be finishing every enemy with a grenade, that means 0 loot drops for us this whole run. Now maybe later on with an incendiary or an acid grenade or something, we could eliminate some enemies without blowing them up. They could fall to the damage over time, but see the thing is we need cores to build incendiary and acid grenades, so that's probably not going to work out too well. Now the other two ways of gathering cores are through covert ops and from supply raids like this one. So if we miss out on the Elerium cores from this mission, it may be quite a while before we see any again, so it's important that we win here. Now thankfully we've got a few things working in our favour by this point that are going to help us get that victory. Firstly, we can bring 5 soldiers on the mission, and we've also built the Frost Bomb. Now thankfully you don't need any cores for the Frost Bomb, just supplies. And yes, in case you're wondering, the Frost Bomb also has 100 charges, so pretty OP there. Now it is still limited somewhat as we can only equip it on a single soldier, and we need to make sure we don't lose that soldier because otherwise the Frost Bomb is gone. But whoever is carrying this item can use it every turn, for 100 turns at least. And in a world without mimic beacons, it's a pretty good backup to have in terms of shutting down enemies. Yeah, and with the Frost Bomb in tow, needless to say, this is another relatively easy victory. And as a reward, we get a single core. Now, I was hoping for more, but this is a good start. Having 1 is infinitely better than 0. I do decide we're going to hang on to it for now until some better research becomes available to us. And since things are going so well, I decide we might as well hit the Blacksite. My plan for most missions at this stage is to bring 4 grenadiers and 1 soldier of another class. Usually the other class will be either the skirmisher or a ranger. Rangers can still be quite useful thanks to their concealment ability, plus having access to run and gun. But on this particular mission, where we don't have a time limit to worry about, I figure a skirmisher being able to throw 2 grenades in a turn will be more useful. And the reason that I want a soldier of a different class is mainly to reduce the number of grenadiers that are getting tired. And look at this, it's a white Christmas at the Blacksite. That's pretty cool, right? Too bad we're about to make it a red Christmas, I guess. Now the plan for the first couple of pods is fairly straightforward. We're going to bombard them with all the explosions we can, and then we're going to use the Frost Bomb on whatever survives. Most of the time, however, nothing survives, so the Frost Bomb isn't really necessary. However, things do go awry atop the main building of the Blacksite. Wacky Joker here, yes that's his name, is chilling safely on the roof, and I decide I'm going to move Tony Stark, and yes, that is his name, 1 tile in front of Joker. But this 1 tile is just 1 too far, and that triggers the pod with the mech inside the building. Now we're totally out of position to deal with these enemies, so this could be bad. We do our best, but one of the troopers survives and we're not able to deploy the Frost Bomb. He hits our boy Tony right in his hot pants and scores a crit. Now thankfully blast padding reduces the damage we take due to its point of armor, and yeah I know, blast padding was actually useful. It still sucks though, you're not going to change my mind. So Tony takes some explosive revenge on the trooper and we push on, only to get another bad pod activation with literally our very next action. Now thankfully we can make use of the Frost Bomb so we can disable the Stun Lancer. That's really good, those things are scary. And the Sectoid only raises a zombie, so we should be able to beat these guys fairly easily on our next turn, unless the Hunter activates as well. This is not looking great here. Now thanks to Total Combat, our Skirmisher Sleepwalker here can dispose of the Lancer single-handedly. I then focus on the Sectoid as I figure we're not going to be able to finish the Hunter this turn even if we hit him with everything we have. The Sectoid we might be able to bring down though. However, it's too far away, so we're just going to have to settle on using the Frost Bomb to freeze him. The Hunter then calls in a Trooper as backup, as well as lobbing a stun grenade. We're getting really bogged down here. This is not good. However, on the bright side, it's given me an excuse to use a smoke grenade for the first time ever in one of these runs. So that's cool, I guess. But not really. See, the thing is, if you're ever using defensive tactics in this game, like hunkering down or smoke grenades, it means you're on the back foot. You're being forced to react to Advent's actions instead of making them react to yours. So the very fact we have to use this item means that things are not going our way right now. So now with the Trooper here, I have to repeat the plan from last turn, and I'm going to focus on Advent and the Sectoid. Now finally we're able to finish them off, then we can focus on the hunter, who lobs a stun grenade for the second turn in a row. I've never seen that before. In hundreds, if not thousands of hours playing War of the Chosen, I have never seen this guy use his grenade twice in a row. I figured it had a cooldown on it, but I guess it doesn't. And you want to know something even crazier? He uses it a third time in a row on his next turn. This is truly a bizarre run. I'm wondering if my messing with the game's files somehow increased his number of grenades as well as ours. It's like this guy is literally trying to beat us at our own game. He saw us launching grenades all over the battlefield and he thought to himself, hey, I can do that too. Well, newsflash Hunter, you can't do it too. We send this guy packing back to his man cave, we grab the vial, and we book it out. Now that was actually a reasonably tough mission, as the Hunter really threw me off with his constant grenading and stunning our soldiers. It was annoying, but we persevered. And Q has now reached Lieutenant rank, which means he can get the Heavy Ordnance ability. That means 1 extra charge of the grenade in his grenade-only pouch. Yeah, having 101 uses is going to be a huge benefit over our current 100 uses. But the thing is, it's still more useful than holo-targeting, which we can't actually use at all, so we're going to go with this ability for now. On the next mission, Twitch chat convinces me to do some testing, so we use console commands to warp in the Hunter, and lo and behold, he has 100 uses of his grenade. Now apparently he normally only has 50, but I haven't actually confirmed that for myself. But either way, he definitely wants in on our challenge run here, and I'm guessing that's probably related to why his AI is so balked in this campaign. Now I reload the turn to get rid of the random hunter, we don't want to be cheating here, and then I proceed with the mission. And it's a pretty easy mission, so we'll just move on. On the next guerrilla op, I get a really bad concealment blow and Drifter ends up sandwiched between 2 pods. So once again, this calls for a smoke grenade. And the way this thing works is it grants a defense bonus as if you were in cover to any unit who is within the cloud of smoke. So it makes it harder for Advent to hit our units. Well, theoretically it should be harder for them to hit us. This is XCOM after all. But the smoke grenade does its job here and it does save our hides. Between the captain, the sectoid and the purifier that are all active, we don't take any damage. So that's really cool. I was worried Drifty Boy was going down, but it's not to be. He hangs on for a bit longer. On the next turn, we have enough firepower to annihilate the remaining bad guys. We then push on to the objective and we claim our victory. And soon after that, we complete a covert op to recover an engineer. And here he is, the man himself. Saint Nick is out of Advent jail and ready to join the war effort. Excellent. Then it's time for another Haven defense, and this time the Assassin is making her debut. Her strengths are melee, immunity, and low profile. Those aren't going to help her one bit in this campaign, and her weaknesses are Bewildered and Reapers. Still no weakness to explosives, so that's a bit of a bummer. Now we make good progress in this one as we push forward against Advent, and the best part here is that mutons are on this mission, so provided we can win, we'll unlock the most valuable research in the game, plasma grenades and advanced grenade launchers. And I should say the most valuable for this particular run. However, as we're pushing forward, I make a tactical blunder. I actually forget that the Assassin is on this mission. See, things had been dragging on for a really long time and she hadn't shown her face, so it just kind of slipped my mind that she was still out there somewhere. And then, as I least expect it, she does reveal herself, and check out what she does to Drifter. Well, that was certainly a sight to behold. So I try chasing her down, but she's moved so far that I can't even see where she's gone. And we've got Advent clowns to deal with too. So instead we're going to have to focus on the weaker enemies, take them out, and that's going to give the Assassin another chance to attack. She goes for a harbour wave, and nothing happens. Now this is 2 campaigns in a row where Harbour Wave has done literally nothing to us. I'm not sure why this is happening, but I do plan on enjoying our new Harbour Wave free world. Now eventually we are able to take her down through copious amounts of grenades, and this mission was a little bit annoying, but it honestly wasn't too bad overall. And before too long, there's another round of guerrilla ops, and we don't care what the dark events are for this one, we have to do this particular mission right here, and the reason is for the reward. Yeah, we need Mrs. Claus on the team. But it does actually work out well because this is the dark event that I wanted to stop anyway. So we just have to make sure we win. I imagine Santa would not be happy with us if we fail the mission and get his wife sent to the Shadow Realm. So mission critical here. Now luckily to help us on this one we have our new toys from the Muton Autopsy. So our grenades are going to be doing significantly more damage. Now this one's a protect the device mission and there's 2 pods sitting right on top of the objective. Now normally that would be a bad thing, right? We got to engage 2 pods at once. Yeah, well, not this time.
Get ready for a surprise!
So it turns out that plasma grenades are pretty amazing if you didn't already know. I mean, the combination of 2 pods all gathering around that truck was incredibly fortunate for us. Definitely my personal highlight of the run so far. And all this commotion does cause the 3rd pod to activate, but that's really not a big deal. We freeze the captain with our frost bomb, and then we focus on the other enemies. Once they're gone, we can wait a turn since the captain's not going to be able to do anything, and then we can move in for the Skulljack. Now, of course, that's going to bring out the Codex, and it's also pretty easy to deal with. We just use the same strategy. We can freeze it to prevent any clones from forming, and then we can just start dropping some grenades. Now, this was a highly successful mission, and with our victory, Mrs. Claus has joined the team. Things are going really well. And even better, thanks to the mech that we took down, we can start researching Blue Screen Protocol. This is going to give us access to EMP bombs, which are going to be our best measure against mechanical enemies. And speaking of mechanical enemies, why don't we go check out the Forge mission and wreck ourselves a Sectopod? I am using some bonds by this stage. Being able to give an action to lob an extra grenade may prove really useful on this one. And we've also unlocked squad size 2 so we can deploy 6 soldiers. And we've got biggest booms. That gives our grenades a chance to cause critical hits, inflicting extra damage. Now I'm feeling a bit overconfident, I guess, and I move a bit too aggressively. I know that's so unlike me, and we activate 2 turrets, a lancer and a trooper. And the worst part is most of the squad is too far away to be able to do very much. So this might be the first time in the whole run that we've actually gotten ourselves into some trouble. Now the turrets we can take down, 1 grenade each will do away with them. But the Advent guys are just too far out of our reach, even with the extra range of our new grenade launchers. Now we are able to hit the Lancer with a flashbang since they have a bigger radius than normal grenades, so that's going to make him a lot less dangerous. And we can also combine this with a smoke grenade on our troops that's going to boost their defense. Now this should make it very unlikely for that Lancer to be able to hit us, but like I said earlier, this is XCOM, baby. Nope, he misses. It's okay. The Warlock has shown up on this one though, and he is looking extra horrifying today. I mean, check this out. I guess he's practicing his audition for the next Exorcist film or something.
Your mother misses 90% shots in hell.
His strengths are Prelate, Kinetic Plating, and Soul Stealer. Now, Kinetic Plating is normally bad, but in this run, it's nothing to worry about since it only activates on missed shots, of which we will have none in this campaign. His weaknesses are Groundling and Templars. That means none of the Chosen have explosive weakness in this run. That's pretty garbage for us. Of course, none of them have immunity to explosives either, so I guess I shouldn't complain. But you guys know me, I'm probably still gonna complain. So we deal with the Advent Bros and then we push on to meet the Sectopod. The first thing we do is hit it with an acid grenade. Yeah, we've built one of those by now. We had an extra core, so I figured why not. Now these things shred more points of armor than a regular grenade, and then we go to town with our EMP bombs. They're doing 10 damage each, 12 if we're using a soldier with the volatile mix ability. And they have a chance of shutting down the enemy too. These things are pretty good. Their only problem is they only work on mechanical enemies. They're useless against organic units. And that's why I don't normally use them in a regular run. They're just too situational versus other grenades that you can use. It's also worth mentioning the Warlock is spawning Spectrals on us, which slows down our progress significantly. We're having to deal with these things every second turn. It's just an annoyance though, we're not in any real danger. And then we come across a codex, and we've actually progressed the story research far enough that we can skulljack this thing, so I decide that's what we're gonna do. So we repeat the same process with the captain from earlier, we frost bomb, and then we plan to use the skulljack on the next turn. However, the Warlock throws a bit of a spanner in our works, and he summons 2 Spectrals. Now the smart play here is to just freeze the codex for another turn, it won't be able to hurt us, we can deal with the Spectrals, and then we can wait until the next turn to skulljack. But I decide I don't have time for that, we're gonna go into skulljack right now. What could possibly go wrong? I mean, I figure we can deal with an avatar and 2 Spectrals easy enough, but as you may or may not be surprised to learn, it turns out that I'm wrong. Since we want to freeze the avatar to stop it teleporting, we just physically can't do enough damage to finish all 3 enemies. And the thing that I didn't plan for here is Sleepwalker. So I wasn't too worried about the zombies blowing up on us since our whole team has blast padding. We'll take minimal damage. But Sleepwalker here being a skirmisher, he doesn't have that luxury. He doesn't have that extra point of armor. He doesn't have that reduced damage from explosives. So that means he's going to have to relocate rather than being able to use 2 grenades. And that's what makes the difference between being able to finish these things and not. Now I did try grappling to another location with him, but the problem is that we've blown up all the nearby structures, so that's not an option. I mean, I guess that's going to happen in a grenades only run, isn't it? And so one of the zombies does actually end up detonating on us, and we do take damage. I think the last time this happened was on that garbage exquisite timing run. It's a pretty rare thing that these zombies live long enough to do anything, but they have here. And it's possibly the first damage that we've taken of the entire run. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that is the case. And it could have been so easily avoided if I just wasn't so impatient. Now it is fairly minor damage, so it's not a big deal, but our armor point has been shredded on our troops, so we are going to take increased damage from any future attacks. Now the Warlock seeks to capitalize, he goes for a Mind Scorch on a couple of our troops, but that doesn't save him from the onslaught of grenades that are coming his way, and this guy goes down pretty easily. We're then able to move on, and we can deal with any bad guys that appear before us. And before picking up the body we need to grab, I blow up all the walls on both sides of the building, well, a lot of the walls, not all of them. And the thing is, this way, regardless of which side of the map the evac zone spawns on, we can just run straight there. We don't need to run through any obstacles, we've blown them all up. So needless to say, evacing out is an easy task on this mission, and this one is in the bag. Now most of our high level troops are tired after that outing, so for this council mission we're sending mostly low level troops. And check out this map, it's from a mod and it's really cool. It's a long skinny L shape that's surrounded by ocean, and the network towers make pushing forward with Storm, our Phantom Reaper, more annoying than it needs to be. But even with low-level soldiers, this one isn't too bad. 100 grenades is just way too many for these alien guys to deal with. The biggest challenge here is actually the time limit. We're almost out of turns and there's still a priest alive. Now, I don't want to leave anyone behind, and I figure if this thing uses stasis on us, that could be a problem. We may not be able to reach the evac before the turn timer runs out. So instead of going for the kill and risking having sustain activate, I decide we'll just freeze the priest instead. This way we can just run past him, and we can ensure all our troops make it out in one piece. So this campaign is going pretty smoothly, right? But I know what you fine people want. You want to see a challenge. You want to see what happens when things go wrong. Well, I present to you this guerrilla op featuring the Lost. Now, I've been meaning to upgrade our resistance ring for ages by this stage so we can have an extra resistance order. We do actually have the card for Between the Eyes, but I can't use it because there's not enough resistance order slots. And I've got others that are more important, like the one that prevents you from getting ambushed on covert ops. Now, I'm not sure if Between the Eyes works with grenades or not, but I am interested in finding out. So long story short, there's no Between the Eyes for us, at least not yet, and taking out the Lost simply isn't viable. Like I said earlier, our grenades will cause more Lost to spawn in faster than we can wipe them out. This mission is impossible for us to win. So I decide we don't have to win, we can just take the consolation prize. If we can destroy the alien transmitter and then evac out, we'll be able to stop the dark event, high alert, and this is a really bad one. It removes concealment for all missions while it's active. So my plan is we'll just blow up the transmitter, we'll evac out, and we'll call it a day. Now, we will miss out on the mission reward for doing this, but we'll still prevent the dark event, and that's really all I care about right now. Sadly though, as you can see, half the team gets stuck. And this is where things start going wrong. If these guys move, they're going to blow concealment, so 3 troops are able to move in on the objective, but the others are forced to stay behind. So we camp with these troopers for a while, but sooner or later we have to attack. Time is a finite resource on this mission. So with the front team, I kick things off with a flashbang to disorient the Lancer and the Purifier. I also use another smoke grenade to cover our troops. The Lost's accuracy is pretty bad to begin with, and attacking in smoke is only going to make it worse. So I'm hoping that'll keep our troops safe. And with the rear team, I use another flashbang on the mutons. We want to shut those things down as much as we can. And of course, all of these explosions is bringing in more Lost. It's kind of like a clown car, they just keep coming. Now, Advent only target the Lost on their turn, which is exactly what I wanted. The Lost, however, begin to swarm us. Now, for the front team, this is no problem. We can simply plant the evac zone, we can launch their grenades at the transmitter, and then after they've shot their grenades, we can evac them to safety. The rear team, however, have quite a slog in front of them in order to reach that evac zone. And we have basically 2 choices while we begin moving to get there. We can either get attacked by the Lost that are right on top of us, or we can grenade those Lost into oblivion and then replace them with new Lost who will also attack us. So this is what we call a lose-lose situation. And as if all that wasn't enough, we've also got some Advent reinforcements here too. This just keeps getting better. Now we do take a little bit of damage, but it's minor. Again, that bad Lost accuracy is helping us out, and Potemkin can then reach the evac with a blue move, and he can launch the final grenade we need to destroy the transmitter. And then the rest of the team can make the evac zone by yellow dashing, and we get the heck out of there and leave the Lost and Advent to fight it out amongst themselves. Now that mission was made so much harder than it needed to be purely because of that muton concealment trapping half the team. It was really annoying. But at least it's done now. But there's really no time to celebrate, as we've got 2 UFOs hunting us. Now, one is the story UFO, and we have a second from a dark event. Not to mention Q and Drifter, who are our best 2 soldiers, are both on a covert op when the base defense mission triggers. So yeah, things just keep getting better and better right now. We send the squad out, and of course the first reinforcement that Bradford gives us is a sharpshooter. Now, sharpshooters and specialists are pretty useless this run, so this is just what we need. Why is this man Bradford so intent on doing everything he can to sabotage us? And as the mission proceeds, we do get into a bit of trouble. A Berserker, Muton, and 3 Chrysalids all activate at once, and we're not even done with the pod from the previous turn. Now, the Chrysalids here are particularly scary. If they poison us, we have no means of counteracting it. And what's even worse is that I lob a grenade and it blows up this tree, which was blocking our line of sight, and with it gone, another pod of chrysalids has arrived. Now this turn takes ages as I'm doing a lot of strategizing, just thinking through what are the best moves to make here. This is a really bad situation. But I end up being able to get some extra action points from bonds and thanks to Sleepwalker's combat presence ability. And this means we can freeze or eliminate everything except for the Muton. And I am worried what this thing is going to do, but thankfully it just starts running towards the Avenger. That could have ended disastrously, but we've made it out unharmed, at least for now. Now once the reinforcements start arriving, I'm able to plant an acid bomb on the drop-off point. And by doing this, the bad guys are going to gain the acid affliction straight away as soon as they hit the ground. Now I really wish we had incendiary and gas grenades too, so that we could have stacked multiple effects, but sadly we just don't have enough Elerium cores for that right now. And so the mission takes a while, but we're actually able to destroy the disruptor device without activating the pod standing right next to it. It's always good when you can do that. And then we start the long run back to the Avenger, and thankfully everyone's able to make it out safely. And about 2 minutes after returning from that mission, the other UFO finds us. Now this one we're fortunately able to evade. There would have been a lot of salt on stream if I had to do 2 of these missions in a row. And in my experience, the first UFO that finds you in a campaign will always trigger the base defense mission, and the second one that finds you will always fail to trigger it. Now that being said, I'm not sure if it's guaranteed to always go down like that though, so I was still a bit panicked, but there's no need to be this time, so let's move on. I decide to bring the Templar on the next mission. Twitch chat had a good idea that she may learn Fortress, which would make her immune to chrysalid poison, and that would definitely help on the Psionic Gate mission. We also had the idea of building a spark for that mission, specifically to bait the chrysalids, but I only have 1 Elerium core, so we literally can't afford it. A spark costs 2 cores. And even if we could afford it, it would be a big expense for a single mission, so I'm not sure that it would be worth it. But anyway, getting back to this mission, it has the Horde sitrep. So I'm thinking after we've completed the main objective, we could set up somewhere safe and camp, then we could blow up a whole lot of Lost and farm some XP. However, what I'm not ready for is the Hunter warping in. So that's a significant problem, especially with how grenade happy he's been this run. I send 2 soldiers out to grab the VIP, but I make sure to keep them far enough apart that a stun grenade cannot hit both of them at the same time. This way, if the hunter does stun one of them, the other can perform the revive and we're not going to lose any soldiers. We're also having to avoid the Lost while we push forward to the VIP. I don't really want to blow any of these guys up since that's just going to spawn more of them. So it becomes quite the balancing act of having to avoid the Hunter's long-range attacks and the Lost's melee onslaught. Of course, the Lost do give us the benefit of drawing the Hunter's attention, and so they actually provide us some cover while we retreat back to the evac zone. The Hunter is more focused on taking out them than us. And smoke grenades also help with this as they lower the Lost's chances of hitting us. And interestingly, Headshot does not activate on the Hunter's rifle if you didn't know. A fun bit of info for you. Now I decide, given the Hunter's presence here, things are way too dangerous to farm for XP, so we're just going to bounce. No Fortress for us, I guess. That kind of sucks, but what can you do? And soon we have a guerrilla op. One is for a hidden dark event, and I don't normally do this, but I decide since we have plenty of intel, I'll unlock it to see what the hidden event is. Yeah, this is exactly why I wanted to check. Lost World is normally a fairly trivial dark event, but for this campaign, it's literally the worst one we can get. Any mission with the Lost and the objective to eliminate all enemies will be impossible for us to win, so we really need to prevent this dark event. I'm trying to get as close to the objective as we can before we activate the 2 pods that are in line of sight. I figure I can frostbomb one of them, and then we can take out the other. On our next turn, the Frozen Boys should then be easy pickings for us. But see, the game has other ideas, and instead it sends this Spectre walking through a fence. Now this causes our concealment to be blown way earlier than I expected, and things are not looking too good. But we have to hack that device, even if it means losing soldiers. We cannot let this dark event trigger. The stakes are really high on this mission. So there's an Archon here, and they are a bit of a problem on this run. If they fly into the air to go for blazing pinions, I don't think we can hit them with our grenades. So we're going to make sure to frost bomb him, keep him on the ground where we can damage him. And between biggest booms and volatile mix, some of our troops can potentially inflict 8 damage with 1 grenade. And I gotta admit, one-shotting a Viper with a plasma nade is extremely satisfying. So despite having 2 pods active, we can actually deal with them fairly easily, and then we're able to hack the objective, and Lost World has thankfully been halted. That is excellent news for us. And then I decide we might as well hit the Assassin. Now, even though we encountered her later, she's actually about on par with the Hunter in terms of her power gains, and removing her means that she will not appear on the Psionic Gate mission, and I think we're going to need all the help we can get on that one, so this seems like the right move. Now for this one, I've got everyone on a level 2 bond. This way we can keep those bonded soldiers next to each other and not have to worry about mental conditions. Also, I found out an interesting piece of information on this run. It's actually possible for grenadiers to carry 3 grenades, provided the third one is a smoke bomb. Now, I never knew this. I always thought it was just limited to 2. But I guess Firaxis realised the smoke grenades really aren't that amazing, so they needed something to keep them relevant. And so now everyone in the team is carrying a smoke grenade, plus the other 2 grenades they would normally have. And this is actually really good. It leaves us with a lot more utility slots for other types of grenades. And this first area is pretty much a joke. We blow up everything in our path. This team is made up of our 6 highest level grenadiers, so they are not playing around. All of them have volatile mix, which gives grenades plus 2 damage, and a couple also have salvo, which lets them fire 2 grenades per turn, provided they don't move. So yeah, there's no problems to report here. Advent are easy pickings for us. But the final chamber is where the real fun is going to happen. Now, thanks to volatile mix, codexes are a one-shot with an EMP bomb, and it is so good not having to deal with the annoying clones. And as for the assassin, well, what can I say? We shoot a whole heap of grenades at her, and down she goes. But the real thing I'm interested in here is the sarcophagus. See, in my secondaries only run, I stated AoE attacks like grenades can't hurt the sarcophagus. But that's actually wrong, it turns out they can. So we can start lobbing grenades to destroy this thing. And what I'm really interested in is whether EMP bombs work or not. See, when War of the Chosen first released, blue screen rounds actually did inflict extra damage on the sarcophagus, but at some point Firaxis patched that out of the game. I guess they thought it was too powerful. So I'm not expecting EMPs to work. It would make 0 sense if EMPs affected this thing, but blue screen rounds did not. But we're gonna give it a try, just in case. What? What? So blue screen rounds don't work, but these things do. Both items are designed to do the exact same thing. They affect all the same enemies. Man, I'm mad about this. This definitely would have changed how I played these missions in the secondaries only run if I had known EMPs did so much damage to the sarcophagus. This is wild. But hey, finding out late is better than never, right? So I think I'm just going to take my frustration out on the assassin and call this one a day. And soon we have another council report, and the worst thing imaginable happens. the Hunter with Blast Shield. Now theoretically, this shouldn't actually be too bad. I think I've modified my game's files so that this immunity won't actually do anything, but we won't know if the changes that I've made have worked or not until we try it. And I was just about to assault his base too, so this has come at literally the worst possible time. If we go in there and his explosion immunity holds true, we're either breaking our grenade-only rule, or we're looking at a squad wipe, and neither of those options sound particularly good. Now, before we can go on that mission, we have a Haven defense that we need to do first. And that blast shield is really weighing heavily on my mind, so I play this mission quite badly. I'm way too aggressive and we end up activating a pod on the other side of the water. We cannot get to them in time to avoid a counterattack. So I'm hoping the mech will use its missiles since blast padding will protect us, but it does not. It takes aim right at Pyrotechnic and hits him for big damage. Then the trooper decides he's gonna try to do the same thing and, well... our first loss of the run, and it was 100% avoidable too. That's the part that really annoys me. Now, our second skirmisher demon gets poisoned by chrysalids as well, but thankfully we can finish the mission before he goes down. And even if we couldn't, I could have evac'd him out before the poison got him. But either way, it's not a good outing there. This hunter situation is affecting my play. We need to deal with it one way or another right now. So the first area is again no problem. We do encounter a pod of 4 Archons, and I was a bit worried about it, but it's honestly fine. They were clustered close enough together that we could usually hit multiples with our grenades, and we end up not even needing the frost bomb to deal with them. So yeah, much ado about nothing with that one. And now the moment of truth. Will a grenade work on the hunter? Yes it does. That's really good. So basically what I did here, if you're wondering, was I changed the explosive immunity to a melee immunity in the game's config files. So if we were to attack this guy with a sword right now, it wouldn't do anything to him. Now I know this is a pretty dirty solution as far as coding goes, but it achieves the result that I want, so I think it's fine. I just need to remember to change it back before I start the next run. And I'm actually so busy enjoying my successful game modifying abilities that I accidentally shoot with Netta. I just wasn't paying attention, so we need to reload. And that's actually the first time all campaign that I've done that, so I'm kind of impressed with myself there. I expected to be doing that a lot more. So anyway, with the hunter now immuneless, I think I just invented a word there, he goes down fairly easily. And now that I know EMPs do big damage to the sarcophagus, I'm using a lot of them. Between salvo and a bonded action, Q can launch 3 just by himself in a single turn. It's a bad day to be the hunter right now. Now, an Andromedon does appear as a reinforcement, and I make sure to take this thing out before we finish the hunter. I didn't actually need to, but we want the Andromedon's corpse, and I haven't been able to get hold of one in this campaign yet. We have fought multiple Andromedons and we've taken them out, but they've always been in missions where we don't get to keep enemy corpses. So with the bulky boy down, we can then focus on the hunter. He's taken up cover in the far corner of the map, which would normally be really difficult to deal with. He is in cover, but our grenades can just reach him to take him down once and for all. We're really burning through these Chosen. There's only one more left. And now we can start researching the Andromedon wreck, and the reason I've been wanting this is that Twitch chat had another really good suggestion. We could plant some proximity mines on the Psionic Gate mission to stop those burrowed chrysalids in their tracks. I never use proximity mines normally, but I think this plan could work well. And the catch of course being is that you can't build proximity mines until you've done the Andromedon autopsy. So here we go, Psionic Gate mission time. Let's see what happens. Now I've placed Cowboy in a war suit. He's fairly low level, and he's going to be our sacrificial lamb, the cannon fodder of this run, if you will. So I'm hoping that extra point of armor from the war suit may keep him alive a bit longer. I also give him deep cover as a hidden ability, as I figure we can run with him and then hunker down, which will give him some extra defense against the chrysalids. But it turns out that idea was a waste of time. See, deep cover only causes your soldier to hunker down at the end of your turn, so it won't actually proc until the chrysalids have already triggered and attacked him. So it was a good idea, but didn't really work out. Now, what's the broader strat for this mission? Well, you can see for yourself the disaster zone that I'm creating here. We're going to throw down a stupid amount of smoke to buff our defense, while turning the ground into a literal minefield to blow up the chrysalids when they activate. And I really enjoyed this spectacle. This is such a ridiculous strategy, but that's part of the fun of these runs. You get to play the game in ways that you otherwise never would. However, while I'm thinking that this is a good plan, it has a monumental flaw. The chrysalids simply are not taking the bait. I know that we're close enough to have triggered them by now, but they're just not coming to the surface, and this is a massive problem. See, I threw those mines down in front of us, expecting the chrysalids to detonate them. But since the chrysalids aren't cooperating, we now find our own troops having to wade through the minefield that we created. Now, our soldiers won't actually activate the mines, so that's really good, but if something else activates them, like a chrysalid, while our trooper is in the blast radius, we are going to take damage. Now, blast padding will reduce the damage, that's true, but I've thrown a lot of mines, like way more than blast padding can protect us from, so I think we're in a bit of trouble here. And just look at how close we are to this first lid before it activates. Now, I'm sure they normally trigger way earlier than this. I'm calling shenanigans here. Now, once the chrysalids finally do start appearing, the plan does work and they go for a one-way trip to meet their maker. But again, we're now in the minefield too, so our soldiers take damage as well. And in retrospect, I think I would have been better off just throwing down the smoke and hoping the chrysalids missed us when they attack, because now we have this minefield that's going to guarantee that we take damage. So that's a much worse proposition than a chance at damage. And also, if you're wondering, you cannot detonate the mines with grenades. I did try that, it doesn't work unfortunately. So we're forced to send old Cowboy out further. I gave up with the smoke since it was blocking view of the mines, and I also haven't planted enough mines because I was worried about us having to move over them. So when the gatekeeper and some lids do activate, there's not enough explosions to keep Cowboy safe, and he goes down. Second casualty of the run, not good. But really, I think he was gone either way here. It was either get attacked by the chrysalids or get blown up by mines. Both are pretty bad scenarios. Now, if I had been better at noting the exact location of where the chrysalids were burrowed, we could have planted the mines right on top of them, and that might have worked better. But that's a pretty difficult thing to do, and it just wasn't feasible here. At least not for me. And so the rest of the crew avenges Cowboy the only way they know how, with an exorbitant amount of explosives. But things get even better. Check out this chrysalid. It looks like it's standing in the blast radius to me, but apparently it's not. The mine doesn't go off. Or how about this one? This chrysalid knows the exact single corridor of tiles to take to avoid being blown up. Now, isn't the whole point of mines that the enemy doesn't know where they are, otherwise it totally defeats the purpose of using them? Well, the chrysalids know where they are, and they are going out of their way to avoid the things. So this mission was a disaster, and the long story short is that proximity mines just suck. The enemies can easily avoid them, and even when they don't avoid them, the stupid things don't always explode anyway, and I'm starting to remember why I never bother using these in normal runs. I'm pretty sure they were janky in Enemy Within as well. So whatever, let's just stick with regular style grenades from now on, and chalk this one up as the L that it was. Well, not technically, we did win the mission, but we took more damage than we needed to. And speaking of things that suck, how about we pay the Warlock a visit? Once again, the first area is just a straight homicide. Advent has no answers for our grenades. I mean, including the smoke grenades, these guys are carrying 1,800 grenades all up. So it's really a foregone conclusion, and honestly, the hardest part of this mission is just figuring out where to go. It's a weird map, and I end up running into dead ends a few times. It's no biggie though, and we eventually get to where we need to be. And as for the final chamber, 2 turns. As in, from the time the Warlock spawns in the first time to when he exits to meet his maker, a total of 2 turns pass. We need 1 turn to lay waste to him and the sarcophagus, and then we need a 2nd turn because he returns with, get this, 6 HP. Like I said, 1,800 grenades, and if we don't move, we can launch 12 of them in 1 turn. Plus, I've got 3 soldiers with EMPs by now, so the sarcophagus went down quicker than interest in Battlefield 2042. And I'd say it was nice knowing you, Skullet Man, but that would be a huge lie, so I won't. Shortly after that, we get a really good scanning reward in the form of a grenade. Now this gives us a poison bomb, or a gas grenade, whatever they're called, I can never remember. I don't normally use these ones. And we can then spend a core to build the final grenade that we don't have, an incendiary bomb. Now I would have liked to have gotten this one much earlier, but we have been limited with cores until the very end of the game, where we came across a whole bunch of them all at once. We had a covert op and a UFO raid mission, and these 2 things combined gave us 5 cores I think, so that's pretty good. So we wait around to build some wraith suits and level up a couple more soldiers. I figure the wraith suits will let us potentially move and still fire off 2 grenades in the final mission, so that could be quite helpful. And I'm trying to level up Tony and Netta, as they have hidden abilities at Colonel level. I was hoping for something like run and gun, but we only get trash that we can't use, so that was a waste of time. But whatever, let's head into the 2 final missions and wrap this one up. Now we have a terrific A-team lined up for the final mission, but the network tower is, well, the pickings are kinda slim. A major, a captain, and a lieutenant. That's who we're sending. But I figure even missions with low-level troops this run have usually turned out in our favour, so I'm not worried about this one. There is an Andromedon on this mission. Now, we don't have a lot of firepower, so we're not going to be able to take him out in 1 turn, so I figure a flashbang is the next best bet. He shouldn't be able to do too much to us while he's disoriented. Wait, what's he doing? What is he doing?
Didn't feel good.
So there's a fun fact if you didn't know. Andromedons, for some reason, unbeknownst to all but the devil himself, can still use their acid bomb while disoriented. You know what can't use special attacks while disoriented? Literally everything else in the game. You want to use chain shot, Mr. Grenadier? Well, you can't. You want to teleport, little Codex? Not gonna happen. Hey, Purifier, you want to pull the trigger on your flamethrower? Too bad, so sad. But not you, Andromedon bro, you can do whatever you like. Okay, so rage and sarcasm aside, I was really salty when this went down. Like, it ruined the entire run for me. Why on earth can Andromedon still use special attacks when disoriented? As far as I know, nothing else in the game can. This seems to be a rule that is unique to them. I think the shield bearer can still raise a shield, but that's not an offensive ability, so I'm not going to count that. This is just unreal. But I figure we'll try taking this on the chin and see if we can win all the same. And I decide we need to book it to the objective as quickly as possible. That acid burn is going to do huge damage to us and could leave us on minuscule HP. So we set forth, and I'm thinking Big Money can hang back with the flashbang to slow the bad guy's advance, Potemkin can cover her with smoke, and maybe someone will live long enough to hack that computer. If we pull it off, it'll make a really good comeback story. But this, my friends, is XCOM. So we don't get a good story. We get a cringe story. We get a story of the disoriented Andromedon landing an Overwatch on our sprinting Grenadier, so she's gone. And Potemkin and Demon quickly follow her to a cold, bitter grave. So just to recap, the Andromedon can still use its special attacks, and can still land difficult Overwatches. So in conclusion, disorientation has absolutely no effect on this thing. The game may tell you that it's disoriented, but there's no difference between it and a regular Andromedon. So here I decide to reload. Now, I know, someone's typing a comment right now about how this isn't following Honest Man rules. But let's consider the situation here. The reason I like to play Honest Man is because it's fun. Suffering a huge loss and having to continue forward all the same, seeing if you can come back from it, I enjoy that. I find that type of gameplay more enjoyable than a lot of games that revolve around just constantly reloading an area a million times until you eventually win. But that has to work both ways. If I'm going to play Honest Man, the game needs to be honest as well. Having a different set of rules for the Andromedon versus all other enemies is not something that I'm okay with. And whether it's a glitch, an oversight, or an intentional design decision, the end result is the same. We've lost the entire campaign because the game doesn't follow its own rules. And in a situation like this, I think a reload is justified. Now you may disagree with my reasoning here, and that's okay, but I am going to reload and we are going to give this another go. Because I really don't feel like losing an entire run to this cheating pile of broken garbage excuse of an Andromedon. No, I'd much prefer to murder this Andromedon. Hey bro, I heard you like AoE attacks, well here's one for ya. And another one. And I've got one after that too. Too bad we're not disoriented right now, isn't it, buddy? If we were, we wouldn't be able to land any AoE attacks. We're not the chosen one like you are. Okay, again, I'll try and put the rage and sarcasm aside. This thing has been sent to the scrapyard of life where it belongs, and the moral of the story is don't bother flashbanging Andromedons. It won't do anything. So we push through the rest of the mission without issue and we hack the objective. No other dramas on this one, it all went fine. And now we're on to the final mission. Let's do this thing. And the team we've got here is pretty beast. I've equipped 4 soldiers with wraith suits for mobility while keeping 2 with smoke bombs in case we need some mobile cover. We move Drifter to this tile here and everything is cool. And then we move Netta onto the tile right next to it that Drifter literally ran across. And lo and behold, an Andromedon is here to ruin our day. What is it with these things and throwing utter garbage at me? Is this because I was hunting for your corpses earlier? Whatever. Now this time, the difference is the Andromedon isn't picking on 3 low-level troops. He's raining on the parade of 6 certified badasses. So this isn't gonna go how you think it is, you Andromedon scum. Now a few more Andromedons do show up in this mission, and the troops seem to be just as over their nonsense as I am. They dish out a lot of crits with those EMP bombs. Oh yeah, and Tony Stark is now an expert on the barbecue apparently.
The Christmas tree's on fire, Santa's holding the lighter. My parents are both liars, I got gifts but 1 subscribers. Thanks for the candy basket, oh god another jacket. My stocking's filled with acid, am I dreaming? What just happened? This is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song. My neighbors compete to see who can put up more blinding lights. The kids all wish away.
So that's what you get for trying to ruin Christmas, and Andromedons are now officially my most hated enemy after this run. And the reason I included the Vipers in there is just because it was really cool. So now for the final hurdle, and this is going to be a tough one. We're heading into the final chamber. So the first thing we want to do is freeze the avatar with a frost bomb. This is going to prevent it from teleporting, and then we bombard it with acid, poison, and fire grenades. And why? Well, because we can, that's why. And by the time we're done, the Avatar and the Archons are all gone. And this puts us on really good footing as the reinforcements arrive. And it's Vipers and Mutons first up. Now the problem is, they've both arrived on the same side of the map, and that's really annoying. Now Tony can grapple and shoot 2 incendiaries, And including the burn damage, it's actually impossible for Vipers to survive one of these things, so we don't have to worry about them. Oleron and Netta are also on that side of the map to clean up the mutons. Now meanwhile, on the empty side of the room, we're just moving our troops to be in the middle-ish of the area. This way they should be ready to deal with the reinforcements, regardless of which one of the gates on that side of the room spawns them in. The Avatar, however, spawns on Tony's side, and he's got some Spectres with him, and this is when I realise I've made a huge tactical blunder here. I've placed all 3 soldiers with EMPs on Drifter's side of the room, that's the empty side. So this means Tony's side has no EMPs. And these Spectres have a lot of health, 20 HP each. We have no effective way to deal with them. If they start using Shadowbound on our troops, we're going to be in really big trouble really quickly. So I decide not to freeze the Avatar and will just attack it instead. I'm hoping that it will teleport over onto the other side of the room so that our other soldiers can help out. I figure that's the only hope we have of finishing it off. But the Avatar just doesn't want to cooperate. He likes this side of the room and he's just not leaving. Now the soldiers on Drifter's side can provide some minor support. Joker can give Oleron an extra action thanks to bonds, and this allows us to eliminate all of the Avatar's bodyguards minus 1 Spectre that we can freeze instead. And so while this is good, the trade-off is that we've had to leave the Avatar alive. Now I really hate to do this, but it usually goes for a mind control as its first offensive maneuver, and even though that's bad, it's way better than something like Null Lance that's going to inflict HP damage on us. And I do have a bit of a plan Z for the Avatar. I place our Avatar right in front of the enemy one. Now this isn't a solo class run, so using the Commander's Avatar as a meat shield is well within the rules. Now I'm not sure if it's because the enemy Avatar is burning, so its abilities are disabled, or if it just wants to go after the Commander, but either way the plan works and it only shoots at our Commandy boy. Now our Avatar is going to heal damage each turn, so taking a hit here isn't too big of a deal. It's much better than losing a soldier to mind control. What is a big deal though is that 3 Andromedons have spawned in. We just cannot get away from these things. And plus we still need to prioritize that Frozen Spectre. And we just don't have enough firepower here. High HP enemies were always going to be an issue for us on this run, and so I decide we're going to have to leave the Avatar for another turn. Now it's far from ideal, but it should still use that mind control rather than damaging us. I mean, to put things into perspective, we can't even bring all the Andromedons to their second form. The best I can do is spread our troops out so we don't get hit with another acid bomb. So finishing the Avatar just isn't in the cards this turn. Alright, and here comes the enemy counterattack. I'm expecting it's gonna be pretty brutal. So Oleron gets mind controlled, which I honestly expected, and the Andromedon takes aim at a flanked Joker. This could be really bad. But Joker has the untouchable perk and takes 0 damage. I love to see it. Yeah, he picked that one up as a hidden ability earlier on. I guess I should have mentioned it. It came in pretty handy there. And so with that, the final Avatar is here, and I think this may be a first for the channel. We've got 2 Avatars active at the same time. Now while that's obviously really bad, the good news is that we can ignore all the other enemies now and we can just go for the 2 boss boys. As long as they go down this turn, we win the campaign. I freeze the second Avatar with the Frost Bomb and this breaks mind control. Oleron then finishes it off single-handedly thanks to a huge crit for 9 damage. We didn't even need Tony's Incendiary. Now unfortunately for the other Avatar, freezing is not an option, so we're gonna have to deal with teleport. And I start to panic as it begins making a beeline to the other side of the room where we will not be able to finish it this turn. We don't have enough actions left. But this Avatar does something very foolish and it decides that it wants to stay on our side of the room after all, and it warps back towards us after one more grenade. Now Twitch chat wants me to test if an EMP bomb works on the Avatar, so I do. And spoiler alert, it doesn't do anything. no surprises there, but we have confirmed it now. And I could finish this thing off with Q, but I decide Drifter is going to get the honours this time around. And why is that, you ask? Well, it's not because I'm a glory hog, it's because Drifter has a very special item. He's holding the acid grenade. And after that nonsense from that Andromedon on the previous mission, I think using the very same attack against Advent to finish the campaign and save Christmas seems very fitting. So here we go, you alien scum. You love acid bombs so much, this one's on the house. And there we have it. You can indeed beat XCOM 2 War of the Chosen with only grenades when you have 1800 of them per mission. Who would have thought, right? And this one was always supposed to be more of a gimmick run rather than a challenge run, just something fun for the holidays. And plus, after the Necromancer run, which ended up turning into a marathon, I wanted something a bit easier and quicker this time around. And minus the network tower, this was a super fun campaign. And I got to try out a lot of different items, which I normally skip over, so that was really cool. But alas, that's not just all from me for the video, but for the rest of the year. And what a year it's been. 12 months ago, this channel had less than 200 subscribers. And now, at the time of recording this, we're close to 15,000. 2022 has honestly been the best year of my life in quite some time. And a big part of that is thanks to the support that all of you have given me. You've made the channel more successful than I ever could have imagined, and I can't thank you enough. I hope you stick with me in 2023 and beyond. And one last thing before I go, I am planning on doing a Pokemon Gold sleep block on my Twitch channel for New Year's Eve, so feel free to join me for that one if it sounds interesting to you. And I'm going to keep posting daily live videos on my Drifter's Musings channel until Christmas. They're very short, but they're fun, so feel free to join me over there too if you want to. Links to both the Twitch and my other channel are in the description. And I think that'll do us, so have a great day, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I'll see you again soon.